Can Allah create a rock so heavy that he cannot lift? I'm pretty sure you heard this coming from mostly atheists, challenging theists, and saying that if God is all powerful and he's omnipotent and he can do anything he wants, and he can create anything he wants, then surely he can create something like that. Something that is so big, so massive, so heavy that he cannot lift himself. It sounds smart, but it's actually not, because it's a trap. If you answer yes, then you would be saying that God is not all powerful because he's not going to be able to lift the heavy rock. And if you say no, then God is not all powerful because he cannot create a certain thing. But here's the thing, a heavy rock that God cannot lift is not a thing. Let me explain. You see, a contradiction is not a thing because what you're asking is something that is impossible, something that is a contradiction. Yes, God can do anything that is logical. Contradictions do not exist. It is not a thing. Therefore, the whole question is invalid. Christians mostly struggle with this question because for them, God actually created a heavy stone that he could not lift. And that stone, the heavy stone, unfortunately, is Jesus. They think that God literally limited himself. A rock is a creation that God created that is something limited. A rock doesn't matter how big it is, it doesn't matter how heavy it is, it doesn't matter how massive it is, it's always going to be limited because it is a creation. A creation is always limited by definition. God, however, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is unlimited. So the question you're asking here actually is, it's not about a rock and it's not about God being able to create anything. It's actually, you're asking if God can cease to be God and become something limited, that something he is not. The question becomes this. Imagine atheists challenging God and asking God, if you're really, truly God, then stop being God and limit yourself in order for you to prove to me that you're actually God. No. God has essential attributes that defines him. And if he let go of these attributes, for example, if he's no longer all powerful, okay, if he is all of a sudden limited, then he's no longer God. It's like asking, can a square circle exist? I'm not saying a shape that contains a shape of a square and a shape of a circle at the same time. I'm saying that a square that can be a circle at the same time, right? Something that has two natures. No, a circle is a circle and a square is a square. When you say something like, I'm a bachelor and I'm a married man at the same time, it makes no sense. You're either a bachelor or you're either a married man. Another example is that atheists sometimes may say, if God can do anything and he can create anything, then can he create another God just like him? Well, again, it's a contradiction. It makes absolutely no sense. You have to understand who God is. And you have to understand his attributes in order for you to at least ask the right questions. Because if God created God, then that second God is a created God. But remember, God is not created. So the second God will never be a God because God is not created, God is uncreated. God does not have a beginning. If God creates God, then the second God has a beginning. He's not eternal. God is eternal. Let's go back to why do Christians actually struggle with this, even though it's just a ridiculous, baseless question? Well, as I said, they believe that Jesus, actually God, limited himself, emptied himself, and then came to earth and died for mankind's sins. For Christians, yes, God can do anything, including contradictions, because according to their ideology, according to their creed, God actually became a contradiction by becoming a human. A human being, by definition, is limited, is a creation. It is a limited creation. God, by definition, is unlimited and uncreated. And he is the creator. This question actually works pretty good when it comes to Christians, and they have like big debates when it comes to this. But for us Muslims, we understand that there is contradictions that do not exist, right? Yes, God can do anything that is logical. God does not do something that does not exist. Something that is an abstract, for example, only it's a hypothetical that only exists in your mind. And to be clear, whoever asked this question at least seriously, and if they think this is an actual good argument against theists, he just does not understand God whatsoever. Before you even ask this question, you have to ask yourself, who is God? What is God's attribute? What is his essence? Understand who he is first, and then ask your question.